Hello guys, welcome back to the new video. So in this video we are going to talk about the architecture of Kubernetes. So in this video we will take an overview of architecture. So here you can see I have created a simple document on it. So this is the diagram of Kubernetes architecture, and here you can see so the here this is the master node of Kubernetes. And these two are the worker nodes. So in the master node here you can see this is the here control plane, and this are the some components of control plane like API server, scheduler, controller, a manager, and etcd. We are going to talk about all these components one by one later. So first of all, this is the master node. So master node basically manages plans and schedules and monitor the nodes. And here you can see these are the worker nodes. So worker nodes are used to host the applications as a containers. So here you can see these are the containers. Here there are multiple ports in the worker nodes, and it stores the multiple containers. Here it also stores the a single container. And here you can see this is the docker, this is kubelet and kubeproxy. So we are going to talk about all these components here. So first of all, what is pod? So here you can see in the diagram, this is the pod. So a Kubernetes pod is a group of containers and is the smallest unit that Kubernetes administers. So pods have a single IP address that is applied to every container within the pod, and container in a pod share the same resources such as memory and storage. This allows the individual Linux containers inside a pod to be treated collectively as single application, as if all the containerized processes were running together on the same host in more traditional workloads. So it's common to have a pod with only a single container where the application or service is a single process that needs to run. Here you can see the pod with a single container, here the pod 3 in worker node 2. So when things get more complicated and multiple processes need to work together using the same shared data volumes for correct operation, multi container pods is a deployment configuration compared to setting up shared resources between containers on your own. So this is the so what is deployment in Kubernetes? So Kubernetes deployments define the scale at which you want to run your application by letting you set the details of how you would like pods replicated on your Kubernetes nodes. Deployments describe the number of desired identical pod replicas to run and the preferred update strategy used when updating the deployment. Kubernetes will track pod health and will remove or add pods as needed to bring your application deployment to the desired states. So here you can see the nodes. So now we are going to see what is the node. So nodes in Kubernetes used to manages and run pods. It's the machine, whether it is virtualized or it is physical. It's a machine that performs the given work. Just as pods collect individual containers that operate together, a node collects entire pods that function together. When you are operating at scale, you want to be able to hand work over to a node whose ports are free to take it. So now we are going to see about the Kubernetes control plane, which is in master node. So here you can see this is the control plane. This is basically used to control all the things. So the control Kubernetes control plane is the main entry point for administrators or and users to manage the various nodes. Operations are issued to it either through HTTP calls or connecting to the machine and running command line scripts. As the name implies, as the name implies, it controls how Kubernetes interact with your applications, which are stored in containers. So now we are going to discuss about some Kubernetes components. So here are the some components of Kubernetes like API server, scheduler, controller manager, etcd, and kubelet and proxy. So let's see what is the etcd and scheduler and all these things. So first of all, uh, at what is etcd? So etcd stores the configuration information which can be used by each of the nodes in the cluster, and it is highly availability key value store that can be distributed among multiple nodes. So it is accessible only by Kubernetes API service server, as it may have some sensitive information, and it is distributed key value store which is accessible to all. So what is API server? So Kubernetes is an API server which provides all the operation on cluster through the API cluster using through API. So API server implements an interface, which means different tools and libraries can readily communicate with it, and a kube config is a package along with the server side tools that can be used for communication. It exposes Kubernetes API. So what is controller manager? So this is the another component in the master node. So this component is responsible for most of the collectors that regulates the state of cluster and performs a task. In general, it can be considered as a daemon which runs in non-terminating loop and is responsible for collecting and sending information to API server. It works toward getting the shared state of cluster and then make changes to bring the current status of the server to the desired state. The key controllers are replication controller, endpoint controller, the namespace controller, and service account controller. The controller manager runs different kind of controllers to handle nodes, endpoints, and etc. So now we will see what is scheduler. So this is one of the component of Kubernetes master, and it is a service in master responsible for distributing the workload. So it basically distribute the workload in the master node. So it is responsible for tracking utilization of working load on cluster nodes and then placing the workload on which resource are available and accept the workload. And this is the mechanism responsible for allocating ports to available nodes. So it allocate the ports to the nodes which are available, and the scheduler is responsible for workload allocating port to the new node. So now these are the components of the master node. Uh, Now we are going to explain the components of the worker nodes. Here you can see in the diagram, these are the components in the worker node. So now we are going to explain these components. So here I have written the document here. These are the components of the our worker node. So first of all, the first requirement of each node is a Docker, which helps in running the encapsulated application containers in a relatively isolated but lightweight operating environment. And after Docker, this is the another component. This is the service, which is kubelet. So this is the small service in each node responsible for relaying information to and from control plane service. It interacts with etcd store to read configuration details and write values. This communicates with the master component to receive commands and work. The kubelet process assumes responsibility for maintaining the state of work and the node server. It manages network rules, port forwarding, etc. The next component is the Kubernetes proxy service. So this is the proxy service which runs on each node and helps in making services available to the external host. It helps in forwarding the request to correct containers and is capable of performing primitive load balancing. It makes sure that the networking environment is predictable and accessible, and at the same time it is isolated as well. So it manages ports on nodes, volumes, secrets, and creating new containers, health checkups, and etc. So these are the containers in the worker nodes. So here, so this is the all about the architecture of Kubernetes. So thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to press the like and subscribe button.